The following audio is of a short story called Miranda that is featured on BoxOfficeBoredom.com. New chapters will be released every Saturday on www.BoxOfficeBoredom.com, and the corresponding audiobook version, like the one you are currently listening to right here, debuts every Sunday.
Try as she may, Jake Denevue was holding out info, thought Agent Catherine Carr. She already knew about the freighter, armed with enough C4 to take out an entire city block. The problem was no one at the agency had the ability to figure out which freighter it was and where the thing was headed to. All they knew is that someone was threatening the American national security, and at this moment, Carr felt she had the person responsible for the whole mess right in front of her. Time was not of the essence here, and no matter what she did, Jake Denevue would not talk. Carr was able to revive Denevue a total of 8 times before his heart didn't restart. Denevue never did talk, simply because he never knew what Carr was speaking of. Carr thought Denevue took his secrets to the grave, when it was a simple case of Jake Denevue never knew the secret to begin with. At 10 a.m., Project Miranda sent its final command to a small cargo ship, the SS Northwestern Saga. As the ship pulled past the Statue of Liberty, it exploded with a mighty earth-shaking boom. The statue, which was once a symbol of American freedom, crumbled into the water below. Smoke billowed from the area, and thousands of panicked onlookers screamed, and their cell phones were dialing 911. The panicked onlookers who were not dialing 911 had their phones up in the air, shooting live video. Back at the military hospital, Catherine Carr watched in horror as all the major news networks picked up coverage of a deadly explosion near the Statue of Liberty in New York. Right now, it was all speculation, but it looked as though 100 were dead and many more were injured from the blast. Rescue crews were scattered trying to perform triage methods as they could, but the cable news networks were calling it one of the largest acts of terrorism since 9/11. The president was to speak to the public within the hour. Agent Catherine Carr nearly began crying as she turned away from the TV and looked back at the body of Jake Denevue. She still believed the key to this whole mystery lied right there beside her. His motives may never be known because she was unable to effectively extract the information like she was trained to do. Carr set her gun and her badge next to the body and with one last deep breath gathered her composure and walked out the door. In her mind, this was her fault, and she couldn't have any more spilled blood on her hands. The president spoke to the American public within the hour, just as news outlets promised. As he got up to the podium, he looked tired, distraught, and a bit shaken up by the current events of the day. He took a deep breath and began his speech.
My fellow Americans, today we suffered a great tragedy, and the loss of innocent American lives were great. One of the great symbols of our freedom was destroyed this morning, and now we find ourselves searching through the rubble, not only for our loved ones, but for our own way once again. The freedoms that we have given to protect us by the countless members of the armed forces that guide us and protect us each day. Many of these groups are in the process to responding to distress calls in the area and will help us rise up from the ashes that have been created today. Americans, it will not be easy. We will never forget the tragedy that took place today and the lives that were lost. But in times of great peril, we as Americans continually rise up to the occasion and show that our great strength is not just a symbol that reminds our enemies, both foreign and domestic, that we are the greatest nation in the world. The American spirit runs deep in every American. That fighting spirit lives in all of us. We ask that you look inside yourself, not for hatred, but how we can rebound from this and rebuild ourselves into a nation that is stronger than ever. Members of the government have already been working on figuring out what has happened today. The Department of Defense does not believe this to be an act of war. Our sources believe that this was an act of a domestic cyber terrorist named Jacob Arthur Denevue. Denevue's motives are still unclear, but more will be released as we find out more. Jacob Arthur Denevue took his secrets to the grave with him. In attempting to escape FBI agents, he and his wife both died in a tragic car accident. We may never know what his motives were, but we believe this is the act of one man and one man alone. He may have succeeded in his goal to destroy a symbol of our great nation, but he has not destroyed the American spirit. As proactive measures, I'm giving the Department of Defense complete control of more troops and more seaworthy vessels to help maintain that our harbors stay safe. I'll be working closely with the Department of Defense leader, including Secretary of Defense Ryan Controry, in making sure that the DoD has the funding they need to ensure the safety and security of all Americans. Mr. Controry will be speaking soon and answering questions that you may have. God bless us all, and God bless America. Seated in one of the chairs behind the president were members of the president's cabinet. Secretary of Defense Ryan Controry was one of those men. Controry had a slight smile on his face as the president gave his speech. He had just executed Stage 1 of Project Miranda. Not only did he just gain more power and more budget than he ever had before, but he was able to shift the blame to one man, a Midwestern comp-sci teacher named Jake Denevue. As the president concluded his speech, Secretary of Defense Ryan Controry was called up to stage. He reached into his pocket and grabbed the pre-written speech that was neatly folded. And with one final breath, Orson S. Scott approached the podium with far more power than he had ever had before.
The following has been a new piece of original fiction produced for www.BoxOfficeBoredom.com. Join us next week for the continuation of our story, text version available on Saturday, audio version available on Sundays at www.BoxOfficeBoredom.com. This audio is a production of the Boredom Broadcast Network and is protected by a 2015 copyright and by BoxOfficeBoredom.com, all rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or any means, including copying, recording, or other electronic or mechanical methods without the prior written permission of the publisher. For permission requests, please visit www.BoxOfficeBoredom.com and contact us through the Contact Us section on the website.